The glitz and glam of the Las Vegas Grand Prix has been hotly anticipated in the F1 world, and what started out as a weekend under a dark cloud ended with a spectacular race. Well, for some that is. Mercedes' woeful season continues, and Toto Wolff couldn't hold back yet another scathing attack on his own team, and the question is, could this be a continued trend into 2024? Because Toto may think so. One team that will leave with a smirk on their face is Ferrari, with the prancing horse feeling hard done by with a 10th-place grid penalty for something that was not their own fault, but it looks like F1's oldest team got the last laugh over one of its closest rivals, something Carlos was all too quick to point out on, and it looks like there was another issue with the track that the drivers were fuming about. The inaugural Las Vegas Grand Prix had probably one of the worst starts to an F1 weekend that you could possibly imagine, with the ultimate losers being the fans who paid a fair chunk of money to watch FP1 and FP2 being, for want of a better word, shafted. Not sure if the $200 merchandise compensation will be welcomed or go down like a lead balloon, but let's be honest, the race was never going to be judged on a free practice session, but rather on the race itself that would take place on Saturday night, and to sum up the race, it was great and probably just short of a 5-star race instead of a really good 4-star race. The unpredictability of the track made it interesting, as both drivers and fans didn't really know what to expect. One thing that we probably could expect was Verstappen winning, but the current world champion had to overcome a collision and penalty to win a chaotic race, as Formula One's return to Las Vegas resulted in a thrilling contest. Pole sitter Charles Leclerc denied Verstappen's Red Bull team a 1-2 by overtaking Sergio Perez on the final lap, having cruelly had his chances of victory ruined by the second of 2 safety cars. Leclerc had been the favourite for victory after establishing an advantage over Verstappen, who was made to serve a 5-second penalty at the first round of pit stops for forcing the Ferrari off track when overtaking at the first corner. However, when Verstappen pitted under the safety car, the Dutchman's fresher tyres enabled him to surge back through the field and eventually pass Leclerc with 13 of the 50 laps remaining, increasing the Monegasque's abysmal record of converting pole positions into race wins. That will now be the 12th time that he has not been able to do the job. While this is not always his fault, it must be a real worry for Ferrari and Charles. At least Charles managed to get onto the podium, as disappointed as he was. The same cannot be said for Mercedes, however. George Russell and Lewis Hamilton had incidents with Max Verstappen and Oscar Piastri respectively, ruining both of their chances of a big points haul. Russell was on course to finish on the podium in Las Vegas, but collided with Verstappen after the first pit stop phase, picking up a 5-second time penalty as a result. Russell was enjoying a strong race in Las Vegas, running in contention for the podium. However, when Verstappen looked to overtake him, the pair collided. Russell was given a 5-second time penalty as a result, dropping him from 4th to 8th. Speaking to Sky after the race, Russell reflected on his crash with the 3-time world champion, having this to say: "Another massively missed opportunity this weekend. The incident with Max was totally my fault. I didn't see him, totally in my blind spot going around turn 11. I was expecting the overtake there. You've got the long DRS afterwards. There we were on course for an easy podium. It was pretty straightforward. Recovered to P4, the 5 seconds knock us down to P8. This season is one thing after another." On the other hand, Hamilton was recovering from a poor qualifying session, but got a puncture after touching with Piastri as he looked to make a big move into the braking zone after a long straight. "A really challenging race," Hamilton explained. "I started on the hard tyre, which was tricky. I got hit from behind, a big hit. I think it was Carlos. I tried not to hit the cars that had spun around. I fell back, I think 5 or 6 places. After that, I felt great. The tyres were feeling good, pace was strong." Now, it wouldn't be a race weekend with someone from Mercedes or Red Bull having some sort of dig at each other, and in this case, it was F1's favourite friendship, Max and Lewis, with Hamilton having this to say about the Las Vegas Grand Prix: "I'm grateful that the race was so good. There was so much overtaking, like Baku, but better. I wasn't expecting the track to be so great. There were lots of overtaking opportunities. I think for all those that were so negative about the weekend, saying it was all about the show, blah blah blah, I think Vegas proved them wrong." Now, we will take only one guess at who this was aimed at, and his name starts with M and ends with Axe Verstappen, who by the way seemed to have an interesting change of tune about the race. Maybe it was because he had just won it, or could it have been some intervention from Liberty and F1? Hamilton and Russell ultimately finished 7th and 8th, meaning Mercedes are now just 4 points ahead going into Abu Dhabi. Considering how bad Mercedes have been this season, they would probably argue that they have been 3rd fastest on track, and had it not been for Ferrari's normal strategy design disasters, then the prancing horse may well have been far ahead of the Silver Arrows, and Toto Wolff was yet again dismayed by his team's performance and didn't hold back, and at the moment, it just looks like the Mercedes boss wants the year 2023 to end, but it doesn't mean that 2024 will be any better. Reflecting on the race, Wolff was visibly dejected. Not his fault. Sad to say, yet another time we had pace, but just no result, he said. George, after the incident with Verstappen when he got the penalty, that was pretty much game over. Also, he had pace at the front. Maybe not max, but it is what it is. We have seen pace-ish today. I think we can hopefully recover and score solid podiums in Abu Dhabi. Wolff once again praised the Las Vegas event, revealing he wouldn't change much other than the qualifying start time. I wouldn't change a lot, he added. I would change qualifying maybe from midnight to 10 PM like the race starts, so you can still have the roads open long at Vegas and have dinner for the fans. Other than that, it was a perfect event. That led us to think, if you could change anything about the Las Vegas Grand Prix, what would it be? Let us know in the comments. One thing that is for certain is that Mercedes need to change their car at this point. They probably just feel like throwing the whole thing in the bin, and to be fair, some pretty drastic decisions are probably needed, and hopefully the 2024 car will be a big upgrade on the current car, as a third year where they are not competitive will be catastrophic for Mercedes, and F1 design legend Gary Anderson has warned Mercedes could end up with an even worse car if they copy Red Bull without truly understanding the concept, and highlighted the real problem for Mercedes. Unfortunately, they have not been consistent in the race itself. You need a result and you need a direction to give you confidence to make big decisions over the winter. I always worked from the belief that you have to be able to recognize the problem in order to fix it. They are struggling at the moment to identify their aerodynamic problem because from race to race it goes up and down like a yo-yo, said Gary. It also gets worse as Gary thinks that Mercedes have a massive problem on their hands. By their high standards, they're getting worse some weekends and never better. With the driver lineup they have, the budget, the factory, they should be sitting beside Red Bull. They have a big job on their hands, finished Gary Anderson. The one team that will be leaving with a smirk on their face will be Ferrari, with the famous Italian-based team feeling hard done by right from the beginning in Sin City after they suffered irreparable damage to their car in free practice, with Vasseur clearly upset about the damage caused by an unwelded drain cover. It only got worse as they got handed a 10th-place grid penalty, and it later emerged that Ferrari applied to the stewards for mitigation, asking them to take into account that it had not been their fault, but Mercedes, who were fighting with Ferrari for second in the Constructors' Championship, were preparing a protest if they were let off, and the stewards decided against it. Sainz was clearly not happy and had this to say about it. "You will not see me very happy this weekend." Sainz was still fuming after qualifying, having this to say: "We did the maximum we could today. I am very disappointed about yesterday. I am still in a very bad mood after that, but I am trying not to show it too much." Now, they say what goes around comes around, and in this case, it came back hard, with Sainz finishing above both Mercedes drivers, and to make matters worse, it wasn't even due to his racing ability, but rather the 5-second penalty applied to Russell. Karma really does suck, with Carlos having this to say about his race: "Good weekend for the team, even though it was a tough race for me. We struggled with engine temperatures racing in the middle of the pack, and it was difficult to make positions quickly. However, we nailed the strategy. Switching to a 2-stop in the second part of the race was better, making up a few places to finish P6. Damage limitation after the penalty, and very important points for the Constructors' Championship. I can't wait to race in Abu Dhabi next week. The fight for second is still on, and we'll do everything we can to take it," said Carlos Sainz. An oil spill on the grid ahead of the Las Vegas Grand Prix gave the drivers an extra obstacle to deal with at the start of the race. Let's just say the drivers were not exactly happy about this, and it probably caused the melee into the first turn. So what do you think? Who will take second, Ferrari or Mercedes? Comment below.